So it's my pleasure to, welcome Brenden Lowbridge to the discussion. So today, as you know, we're talking about fee for service in our segment, or our opposing views segment, where we're talking about whether you should, shouldn't, or what's the pros and cons of that. We've already heard from Adrian Smith from the Home Loan Hub at Narellan, and now we're talking to Brenden Lowbridge from Moneylinks up in Newcastle. So welcome, Brenden.
Andrew, thanks for having me, mate. Appreciate it.
Just to kick us off, if you could just tell us a little bit about, who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your business.
Yeah, great. So we're a local brokerage here in Newcastle. We've got a team of 9 people, which includes 3 of us in a broker role, and then the rest of us as support. We essentially have a bit of a niche where we, specialise in people that are trying to create wealth. So we really want to assist, inspire, and educate our clients to create wealth. So ultimately, they don't end up, having to rely on the pension and things like that. So a big part of our process is an education process. The loan is a part of that, but we really want to see people live a great life and a life full of good choices and abundance, and have an enjoyable retirement instead of a tough one, I guess.
Yeah, really good answer. And as there's been a bit of a theme that I've been discussing with a few people around this topic lately, where I'm starting to work out that fee for service has a lot to do with why you're in business and what you're trying to achieve with the business that you're in. So it's not always the case of is it right or wrong. It's just, is it right for you and your business and your customers? Which leads me to the obvious question. What is your, your current views or standpoint on fee for service?
Yeah, look, it's been a evolving, point in our business, because really we're sort of in between. So we've got a hybrid model where we definitely will charge a success fee now for certain customers, and they might be ones that have a certain plan as far as, doing more active property investment strategies, which might be duplexes, triplexes. They might be using corporate structures and things like that. So we do still have a portion of our clients that are very interested in that. And some of our other clients sort of graduate through education to want to do those type of things as well. So we make it pretty clear that as those start becoming, we've sort of got a line that we can show them where we define a loan becomes a more complex loan, and then that's essentially when we'd have a fee for service. So that would be on a success fee basis. It's transitioned, Andrew. Prior to that, what we generally do is, we had that in some respect for certain loans. We also had our clawback fee in place before that obviously was no longer able to be charged. So we removed that as a result. And when that clawback fee legislation change came in, I did look into that. I went back through 3 years worth of invoices. I looked to see who I'd quoted, and what I actually realised was who I'd actually invoiced, I should say. What I actually realised was most of the ones I did know were coming. So they were those more active investors that made it pretty clear they were going to do something over the next 18 months, sell, capitalise out of that project, do something else. And those type of people were normally the ones that I was charging those fees to. So essentially, by drawing the line in the sand of a more straightforward and then a more complex deal, and charging for the more complex ones, we think that we should be able to mitigate most of that clawback risk moving forward.
Oh, very good, very good. So what's the, how has that impacted or changed your business? As in, there's what I'm hearing is that there's a very specific skill set that you and your business has, or value that you add to your customer that maybe they can't get from somewhere else necessarily. So probably the question I want to ask is in that process of looking after your customer, that customer journey you take them on, where does fee for service sit? What does it mean? How do you explain it to the customer? What is it for you?
So in an initial call, which would be normally a 15-20 minute sort of discovery call we would have with someone who's new to our business, normally towards the back end of that conversation, either they will ask or we'll actively bring it forward. Hey, this is probably important for you to know. This is how we get paid. We want them to know that before we go through the process of collecting their documents. One thing I've been very, very cautious of saying, I never say we're a free service. I always say that, we offer a service. We basically, how this process works from here is we will collect all your documents. Okay. We will do, and this is, provided that, it's I'm talking more of a straightforward application. purchase here. Also, we'll actually do all the due diligence. We'll review all your documents. We'll come up with a solution for you. Part of that will be a meeting that we'll have with you and so on and so forth. I map out that process and I say, we cover the cost of all that. And ultimately, we want to present you with something that you're happy with, that you want to proceed with. And if you do, down the track, when the loan settles, we'll get paid by the lender. So I just wanted to make that comment, because I never ever say that we're a free service. I've adopted that mindset for quite a few years, and I don't like anyone in the team to ever say we're a free service. So I make that pretty clear when we're talking to people, that we cover all those initial costs for them, because we know that if we do a good job, we'll get paid by the lender. For the more complex files, that'll be a bit more of a detailed appointment. But in that initial conversation, I'll sort of say to them, look, this is what we would classify more of a complex transaction. It will require one of our senior team members, and there's going to be a longer strategy meeting that's going to be required on top of our normal broker meeting. And so as a result, we'd have a fee for service. Now, we have it in our office that fee can range, and we really leave it up to the discretion of the brokers, because sometimes, you've got to be commercial, and if there's a good payoff down the track, you might see that a small fee is suitable for a commitment out of the client to allow for some of that initial additional due diligence and, more meetings and more meeting prep. But they can range anywhere from, say, $1,500 to sort of $3,000 as a guide, just basically to get a commitment from that client. Because what we did also find is, particularly in the commercial space, as we were getting into that space more actively as an office, we did find that we were burning a lot of time on it. And that was, in many cases, holding us back from doing 2 or 3, residential simple loan applications. So we really had to, have a bit of a sit back and look at the cost benefit analysis. And that's really why we brought it in, mate, was a combination of the commitment from the client and just to subsidise the fact that there was quite a bit extra due diligence and time involved.
Now, your way of actually, I guess, articulating and setting the process out for them of exactly what you do, and then when you do have a complex deal, actually, going even in further into that, saying, well, the reason why we charge a fee is not just because we need to make money, but this is the service you're going to get. This is the value we're going to give you, and that value is equal to, and then you quote the fee. So a lot of people I say to, or I've spoken to, is, well, if I ask for a fee for service, the person's just going to go elsewhere. Well, not necessarily. I think it has a lot to do with how you position it, when you position it, how you sell it, and that you're actually genuinely adding value. Would that be somewhere around where your headspace is at with why you do what you do?
Definitely, you probably make me sound a bit better than maybe how we do it, but I mean, in essence, mate, it's really the people that are a bit more complex generally know they are. So I find that it's a conversation, and they're commercially minded, so they're trying to have something become more about your experience in having done it yourself and having had experiences with clients like them. And then for the people we aren't charging, we just don't want to undervalue the service. So we're happy to say that, hey, look, we are getting paid by the lender for this. And because of the type of transaction we're doing for you, that is essentially all we get paid. But there is a cost involved in us and a time and a value, as you've mentioned, to get to that point. And I think that's important. One of the things I picked up at the Better Business Summit one year is they said, every hotel you stay at will always tell you that you're getting complimentary Wi-Fi. And I mean, we just expect that we're getting Wi-Fi. Like, that's just that, you'd be pissed off if you didn't. Yeah. But what they're good at is they're good at telling you what you're getting. And I think that's a good reminder in business that, we have to sometimes remind our clients of what they are actually getting when they deal with us. Because if we just come up with a lender in, 2 days after, the next day after meeting them, or 2 days after collecting their documents, and we know that's the right lender for them, sometimes I think, it's like I guess no different if a real estate agent sells your property within the first day after listing it. Often people will think that the guy's done no work and he's undersold the property. So I think explaining the value and your expertise in some way is critical.
Now, we're talking today about making more money. What other advice or tips do you think you could impart to brokers today, just to help them, I guess, make a little bit more money out of their business?
Okay, I think it really depends where you sit. If you're someone that's in a niche and you're doing, more complex transactions, you're sitting mainly in the commercial space, you probably already know that there's not that many competitors to you that can do what you do. And I think that it just is paramount that you'd be supplementing what you do with a fee, particularly given what we talked about before, that, it's a more complex scenario. You have to have the business banking relationships with the right bankers. There's a lot of pre-work, like some of these development transactions we've looked at, like I think it took 2 years for us to get paid by St. George. And, this client had been talking about the dreams of doing this development probably, literally 2 years or longer to me. And so that's a lot of conversations to have with someone, and we did that one without a fee. So that one was a good lesson for us. But so I think that if you're in that position and you're in a niche space, I think that introducing that is very important. If you're, a broker that's specialising in the residential space and you think that, basically you'd rather remain competitive because you see yourself on par with what other people are delivering, it's probably going to be more an exercise about, understanding what your value proposition is before you set a fee. That's my personal opinion. I know some people are just great brokers and they may be like other brokers and they just are confident in charging a fee, and that's awesome. And I admire those guys. For us, we wanted to remain competitive in that space so we could still get, all the first home buyers. And, I still think we'd get a large percentage of them likely if we did charge. But for us, it was like, look, we've got a profitable model with what we're doing. So if I was in that space, rather than probably looking at a fee, I'd be thinking about how I can improve my productivity. And I think before a fee was introduced, it'd probably be having a good look at your team and your structure and actually how productive you are as a broker. So if you're not really, I guess, excelling at a reasonable level as far as your submissions and your settlements, that would be the first step I'd be looking at. And how you basically grow that is essentially with the team and support. That's what we've really worked hard with our brokers, as you know, is we make sure that they're supported, and they're able to do what they do best, which is generate clients and service their clients.
Just can you dig a bit deeper into that? And look, I've been lucky enough that I've known you for a little while and been able to watch from afar. You grow a fantastic business. And what you have is a fantastic business. I had a great conversation with someone from MFAA recently around, the differences between a great broker and a great broker business. And I think one of the things that you've successfully done is you've made that transition from being a great broker to running and owning a great broker business. And I know this wasn't on the agenda, but is there anything that you can add around that? I think it's an important part of making more money. And it'd be amiss of me not to ask you that now got your attention. Is there any elements of that you can share with us?
Well, I'm still definitely in that transition. So I mean, I definitely don't proclaim to have done it. Someone like Theo Chambers at Shaw, who's just the CEO of an epic brokerage. I mean, that's an ultimate example in my opinion. And he shifted from doing really good volume, being a top 100 broker, and doing that. So I mean, he is in that role implicitly. I'm still the most active writer in the business, but what I have tried to do, with the team is implement systems and structures I have in place for them. Because if you want to ultimately have them replacing the business you write, they need to have the infrastructure to be able to do that. So I think what sometimes I noticed was, you might have a director and broker that has some support, but then they bring in another broker and they expect that broker to be able to run around without any support and do excellent volumes, which we know is not the case because we've got support, right? So that's what I tried to focus on. Connor's a great example for that with us. He come from another brokerage, and I think within month 2 or month 3 of being with us, he tripled his volumes just because he had excellent senior support under him. And got recognised at a national level for that with the Rising Star Award, recently. So that's probably a classic example. That's more on him. But what we did do was we obviously set up the support and the infrastructure under him to allow him to do what he loves and does best, which is attract more clients and service them.
Oh, brilliant. Well, look, Brenden, thank you so much for giving up some of your time to, I guess, share your experiences with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've definitely taken a few things away from that conversation as well. So, looking forward to I guess staying in contact with you and seeing what happens into the future. But take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate. I really appreciate it. You have a good one.